Morning. It's kind of how I felt in the first test, the derivatives test we did.
Oh yeah?
I locked in, I had my parents help me a little bit.
You're talking about the limits test or derivatives?
No, the derivatives. The first ones we did that actually had derivatives in it. So that would
Okay.
have been like the third test, I think. It was
Second. It would have been our second.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So it's about like, so you know what about it? So it's an alternate custody of like someone, the provider in the 1800s. It's all industrial revolution.
That's Thompson.
It's like magic silver bars, basically. Or the way they work.
Frankie, Julia, school business, William, AJ.
Like there's no one-to-one translation. There's always gonna be connotations in one.
Camden, Blake.
So the silver like traps the
Camden school business.
and there's these.
Blake is here.
And they either they like
Zoe, school business. Chloe.
since there's so much like overlap from different in English, they started like.
All right. During the minute of silence, make sure that you guys turned in 102 from last class. Otherwise, I need your hard copy up here. If you need to double check that, do that quickly, please.
I haven't, but it's definitely on
Okay, I guess we're not doing minute of silence today. All right, the first thing we're going to look at is one more FRQ from handout 95. So I actually gave that to you a couple weeks ago because we did 2 of the 6 FRQs that were printed out on that. And there was a couple that just didn't have anything to do with chapter 5, so I didn't have you do those yet. And then there was a couple that had topics that we had not talked about yet. But one of those is one that I'd like to do with you guys today. So find that in your binder, please. It was the one that was all 6 FRQs from 2022. Alright, so our plan for class today, we have our test, chapter 6 test coming up next week on that's actually wrong. It'll actually be the 14th, not the 12th. I forgot the last day was the last day before spring break was a B day. So we'll be able to get in one new topic after this unit, but this time next week, next Thursday, we will have our chapter 6 test, which is slope fields, which you've seen everything you need to know about those, but you should probably still review it. exponential growth and decay. We've talked about everything you need to know for those, but you should still review it. And solving differential equations by separation of variables, which the more practice you can get in, the better. But for today, we're going to do this one FRQ, and I'm actually going to set a timer and ask you to treat it like a real test FRQ to see how you do. And we'll handle it similar to the other two that we did earlier this year. So, FRQ 5. Alright, and again, this is just not random. I tried to pick out an FRQ that's going to get us some FRQ practice, which helps you for your AP exam. But you'll also see that it's topics that can and will show up on your next test. So that way we're getting a little bit of double benefit here. So I only want you to do FRQ 5. This was a no calculator FRQ. When you guys do your AP exam, only the first 2 allow a calculator. The last 4 don't allow a calculator. And since you get 15 minutes on average for these on your real AP exam, that's what I'm going to give you right now. So I'm going to set a timer here. Ask you to try your best with this FRQ, and then we'll talk about the scoring and all of that kind of stuff. But any questions before I start? Okay. Now I'm not going to give you any time warnings, so 15 minutes has started now, and then I'll tell you when the time's up. Sorry.
Are you only meant to do number 5?
Yeah, I'm only going to give you time for number 5. So you're welcome to do the others afterwards, but you're not going to have time to do a whole nother one right now. So. Stop. So there was 15 minutes. Again, I didn't give you any time warnings because you don't get that many time warnings on your real AP test. But again, as we do these, you need to try to pick up on little things like, should you have worked faster because you ran out of time? Did you finish with lots of extra time? And then when we look at the grading in a minute, realize you had some careless mistakes you could have figured out if you had used the rest of your time, stuff like that. But to start off here, I'll share the average with you. So out of 9 points, this one was 3.11. So if that's important to you, that's of course what you're aiming for. But no matter how well you do on this, as we look at the scoring, you're still trying to pick up 1 or 2 or 3 more points the next time you see a question like this. We will actually do 2 more FRQs that have similar topics on Tuesday of next week. This is an A week, so I won't see y'all tomorrow. And so of course it'll get easier and easier. But also I like to show you guys that this type of FRQ is fairly common on AP exam. Of course I can't promise it will be on your exam this year, but it's very likely to be. Okay, so again, this stuff here at the top, sometimes I'm going to have you do some of these for homework as we get closer to the AP exam. So this bit.ly link will pull up the scoring guide. That's great, especially if you have like very specific questions. Sometimes I don't know the answers to those. In just a second, when I'm going to put up the solutions up on the board in just a minute, but I do insist that you do any corrections or anything that you missed in a different color. Again, I mentioned this last time, but in case you weren't here, I think that's good for you because when you look back at these, you can just instantly see what mistakes you made, what things you didn't think of, and as I start collecting them for some homework grades, some classwork grades, I can see if there's any like common problems and try to provide the practice that would help the majority of the students. If you don't have any other colored pencils, I've got a drawer of them over here. Colored pencils, colored pens. If you need to borrow one, help yourself, but just put it back at the end, please, so that they'll still be there. And then the last link up there is just a video I found online where someone goes over this FRQ. So again, maybe not this one, but if there's a couple parts that you made a mistake on and you're not sure why, you could just go to those parts of the video and get the explanation, and so sometimes that would be enough to help you out. Okay, so I do want you to score it, again, not for anything for your class grade, but I do want you to see how you compared to the average, and so you remember how you did in the future. Okay, this was FRQ 5. Okay. I can find it. 3. Here we go, 5. All right, so first point was that you did the solution curve through the slope field correctly. So it has to go through the point, and then the shape of your graph needs to be similar to this. And they're pretty generous. If you go a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, that's still fine. They're not that picky. But if you're going the wrong direction, or if you don't go all the way through the graph, like if you only go to here and here or something, like I don't know why you would stop and not do this part, but if you don't do that, you don't get the point. You have to go all the way to the far left and far right of the graph, and it needs to have this general shape, and it needs to go through this point, and you get 1 point. So, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of a gimme point, so if that's one that you missed, obviously you need to review it because this is going to be on your next test for us once or twice, but you see this on your AP exam. This is one of the few questions that just doesn't take a lot of work, so easy one to pick up on. Any questions about part A? Okay, then part B. Again, if you actually pull up the scoring guide, if you want to read these notes, it just kind of gives some more specifics for when you have some other random things. Okay, for part B, they give you 1 point if you had the tangent line equation, which would be this, or anything equivalent to it. So personally, I wouldn't have subtracted the 2 over. I would have written it like this, and that's perfectly fine. Anything equivalent to that, or if you chose to distribute the 3/2, again, there's no benefit in doing that, so I don't know why you would. But if you have anything equivalent to that, then it would be correct. So of course, to make this, they gave you the point, which gave us the x and y value, and then to get the slope, that's what they're doing here. They plugged 1, 2 into the derivative, because remember, derivative means slope. So you had to do 1 unit circle piece in there as well. But 1 point if you got the tangent line equation, and then the second point is if you did the second part of the question correctly, the approximation. So if you plug in 0.8 into the tangent line equation, it gives you a y value approximately equal to 1.7. Or anything equivalent to that, 17 over 10. Remember, FRQs, you don't have to simplify any arithmetic at all. In fact, right here, you could have stopped way back here, what I'm highlighting right here. All of this is just arithmetic, so they would accept that. So there's no interest or no benefit in you doing the arithmetic. You're just rolling the dice, hoping that you don't make a mistake. Now, that's not to say if part of your question was like f of 1, if you don't say what f of 1 equals, then you would miss the question. Or f prime of 2, if you don't make that substitution, that's not good enough. But just add, subtract, multiply, divide. If it's just numbers, you don't have to do any of that. And of course, if yours looks different and you don't know if it's equivalent, then you could type it in a calculator real quick and make sure that you got 1.7. But again, this is a skill we did once last semester. We don't practice it a lot, but you're going to see that it's pretty commonly tagged with these same type of questions. But tangent line equation, plug in the x value, solve for the y value. Okay, part C was just 1 point. You had to have the correct answer, which would be that it's an underestimate, and you had to have the reasoning behind that. So at the very least, you had to talk about it being concave up. Now, I'm going to talk about this one for just a second, because if you struggle with understanding why that's okay, well, also to say it's concave up, you can notice in their scoring here that you could either say second derivative was positive, or you could say the first derivative was increasing, or you could say the function was concave up. They accept any of those. Those are all the same thing, just saying it different ways. But if you're not sure why that was an underestimate because of it was concave up, if if you just make a quick little picture here, concave up looks like this. We did a tangent line approximation. So your estimate was down here where the real value was up here. That's why it's an under, because the graph is trying to turn up. So that's why that is the case. But that was just one point. But also one that if you think about concavity in the future, I think that you can probably pick up that point next time if you didn't get it today. Okay, and then on to part D, which is the, I don't know, probably the real reason why I wanted to talk about this one. So, separation of variables, which we'll have a few of those on your next test, of course, because that's probably the most important thing from this unit, or not probably, it actually is. But they very often put these on FRQs, at least the last few years. And I know these questions can be difficult, especially with that many steps. It's hard to feel like you ace those, although that's what you should be aiming for because it's our current topic. But the scoring of these are usually pretty friendly. So you can have 1 point if you just separated the variables correctly. If you have your y stuff and your x stuff separated, you get a point. Sometimes they give you 1 point for doing both antiderivatives, but often they give you 2 points. So you get a second point if you did the left integral antiderivative correctly. And then you get a third point if you did the right antiderivative correctly. Now my 8A class, you guys know we've had a little bit more 8As than B days, especially with testing and stuff. So they've already done a couple more of these. And this tends to be the most likely place to have a mistake. So slow down, do the U substitution. You guys saw 15 minutes was probably enough time that you had time to do that carefully. Check by taking the derivative. You're not in a super rush. Okay, you get a 4th point in part D if you remembered the constant of integration. So that's just that you put plus c when you integrated, and you use the initial condition. So if you plugged in 1, 2, and you figured out that c was 6, if your work shows that you did that, you get the 4th point. So this is what tends to happen. To get the last point, you have to actually finish solving for y equals. So this or anything equivalent to it. And again, that's tough because there's lots of steps to this. But it's very reasonable to separate the variables correctly. It's very reasonable to integrate both sides correctly because you need to be able to do that anyway. That's already 3 points. Remembering the plus c and solving for c is also very reasonable. There's 4 points. So 4 of the 5 points, if you could just do that, you already have a higher than average score than what other students had in 2022. So even without part A, part B, part C, or getting the last point in part D, you could still get above average. So okay, is there any scoring questions you guys would like to ask about this FRQ? Yeah.
Part C, I just wrote that the slope is increasing with the first derivative.
Slope of what?
Right there.
Well, then that can't count. If you said the slope of f is increasing, then that would be like saying this, and that would be fine. But if you don't say what you're referring to, nobody can make that assumption. So, okay, so at the top of your page, go ahead and put your score out of 9. Again, I'll come around just to get a feel for how you guys did. Doesn't impact your grade or anything. Doesn't matter how you did. All that matters is that you see this process, you get a little bit better at your pacing, slowing down or speeding up, and when you see another FRQ similar to this, next time you can get 1, 2, or 3 more points that you missed this time. So try to pick out the easiest 1, 2, or 3 points, not necessarily the hardest, things that you were close to or things that you knew. but you just made a mistake or went too fast or didn't check your work or something. Yeah.
How many points was this FRQ total?
All FRQs are out of 9. Yeah. And again, this one had an average, what did I say? I think it was 3.11. Was that right? Okay. Again, if you can score above average on all the FRQs, your chances of passing the AP exam are pretty much guaranteed. But of course, you know, you might knock this one out of the park and get 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 9, but then you might find the next 2 a lot harder. So you want to do the best you can to give yourself as much breathing room as possible. So on Tuesday, I've got 2 more for you, one from 2013 and one from 2014. They've asked it a lot of other years, but we'll practice 2 more like that together on Tuesday before your test on Thursday. The rest of class, I'm giving you some time to work through and finish up your test review. So that was 103 that I gave to you last class, but I didn't give you class time to work on it. So I encouraged you to start on it, especially if you felt like you were falling behind. But I suspect very few people are completely finished with that. So I'm giving you some class time to finish that. Hopefully some class time to do some studying. And then next week on Tuesday will be your last chance to make those dots connect. We will have class on Friday, but we will do one more new skill on Friday before spring break. Then when we come back from spring break, we have one more unit to finish up. So we'll have about 4 more question types to look at. I don't know. There's difficulty-wise, they're somewhere in the middle. They're easier than the separation of variable questions, but definitely harder than slope-filled and stuff. But about 4 more question types, and then we should have a few weeks up till May 13th that we can just focus on AP stuff. So more FRQ practice, especially the ones that are likely to show up. Review stuff from first semester that you don't have to use all the time, that you know, are a little rusty on. Things like the quotient rule and the product rule and implicit differentiation and related rates and stuff like that. So, and then before you know it, the AP test will be here. So, all right, so I'll come around and just kind of get a feel for how your FRQ went and see if I noticed any common errors that the as you guys work on your test review, of course, if you have questions, they would be a great thing. All right, how'd it go? Good. Very good. All right. What do you think you were close on? Felt the tangent lines? Little stuff? Yeah, that part, that's one of the most common things. So. Okay, that's not too bad. How'd it go? All 9? Nice. Not good. Okay.
Recently.
All right. What would be the next couple you do?
Usually do this for a second.
Okay.
Just came back to me. This one minutes. I didn't do anything like this week.
That's okay. Why we're practicing. All of those, sounds like a lot of those just need little tweaks. So, try to look it over before Thursday and then you do 2 more. How'd it go?
6.
Okay. Not bad. Do you feel like you can get some of the other points, or were they pretty far away? Okay, that's good.
I was pretty close on a couple. I tried playing. I just tried solving this.
Okay.
I missed it.
Oh yeah, you need to watch that because that's only gonna take you about 10 minutes to get an idea of what to do. So it's an easy one to catch up. How did y'all feel?
The last question.
The last one? That's gonna be a big part of your next test though,
Oh,
so
So these are just zero.
at least you know that you need to focus on that. You're welcome. I'll probably gonna, what you were asking earlier, I'm probably gonna assign some of these other ones at some point before I have you turn this in. But if you wanna work some of those early, you're certainly welcome to. I put all this stuff up there so that you can do it on your own if you want to, but you need to do the test review first. Okay, you didn't have much time, so.
Yeah, but for what I did do, I did good.
Okay.
One question I had, what's your view of
A lot of times on FRQs, they're pretty friendly where like, if part B, you use something from part A, but you messed up part A, as long as you use your incorrect word correctly, they'll still give you the points for part B. So, not always, like, if you just completely make up something that's super easy in part A so that part B is ridiculous, then like, they won't do that, but, yeah.
Really likes me. Really.
You okay?
Yeah, without things.
You're
It
on
also
so much.
like so.
Dot B?
Content
line?
people as they try to.
Oh, I'm talking about the price.
Or deleting things that people are trying to show me as they're trying to show
But
me.
you're gonna be able to get a couple more next
I
year.
have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that like I just forgot that last semester too. But if I put myself like
Good luck.
Yeah. Anytime you need slope, you're gonna have to use it.
Have good luck.
I mean, it's exactly like this. You want the slope, so you want the numbers in the derivative.
I
It's really the same thing.
extremely high luck every time I start a game. But then I actually get into the game and start learning what is good luck and what isn't, and then suddenly that's not good anymore.
Describe where the points would be positive. Or where the slope would be positive.
I'm not sure if I told you.
Okay, so how do you supposed to know something about slope?
But one time, my dad tried to show me
Okay.
that, like.
Okay, yeah, you're not gonna look at this. This isn't only 9 points. This is talking about every point. Here's your
Won
derivative.
$500.
So if you wanna know when the slope's positive, you wanna know when the
It
derivative's
wasn't just
positive.
that.
When is
Okay.
this positive?
It was 5 grid on a scratch ticket, right? We scratched off the first square.
Always, unless x is 0. So x can't be
Scratched
0.
off the second square.
This is positive
And then scratched off the
times a
third square.
positive
It
is
was 25.
positive. So when is 1 minus y
The rest of them,
positive?
every single one of the 29 squares on the scratch ticket had $20.
Well,
I think those
right,
are
so as long as x is 0, and as long as x is less than 1, or y is less than 1. Your slope would be positive, or your derivative would be positive, so therefore your slope would be
I have a
positive.
friend who just says reasons all the time. So I made him a bunch of images. This one's
Again, I probably will have you practice some of those other FRQs. I know we've got 3 or 4 of those done now. I guess 3 from that packet. I'll probably have you do a couple more before I have you turn it in. But again, you guys are certainly welcomed and encouraged to do the others if you're wanting some more practice. The only word of caution is number 2 is some stuff we haven't done yet. So you can try it, but you should be confused on that because that's some of the last new skills we need to talk about.
because a lot of digital art doesn't do hours. Hours, not minutes, not minutes and seconds.
I thought that was a bond dueling.
Oh, no.
You took 3 seconds to solve the question.
No. It says I found my parents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's it.
This question for B, is
Mhm.
that the right answer? I just like,
Okay.
Yep, that's perfect. Yep.
You say you're down. So we did the A. For some reason.
And stuff like that, like, that's not something that you're gonna practice 20 times before the AP exam, which is why we wanna feel as comfortable about the stuff that's likely to be on there, so that you have more time to like try to figure out what in the world are they asking, because they definitely like to throw twists to see if you can figure out what you're doing, so. Yep. All right, again, focus your test review, please. You really should be aiming to have that finished in class with how much more class time you guys have today. You still have almost an hour of class time, so again, hopefully you finish that and feel like you got some of your studying in. And as you guys need some help, just let me know. If I get the same question multiple times, I can talk about it on the board as well.
So that's this red dot, which is the black dot right there. Like this. That's this looks like this. Like, this is the power of the universe here. It's 4/3 times that power of 2. And between that, there's this. It's 2 times the same. But now, because of that, there's this. It's just not 2 times that. I don't know why. It works, sort of. It's kind of close to the either just you would taking it or just adding thing. Yeah. The main thing is you want it this
are the answers to this what I'm saying?
They are.
So
Mhm.
in theory, you might be able to continue like do this for 8 steps. Take the limited items to infinity and look how it stops at 1. if there's which divergence, it's false. Yay.
So on 2, is this all you can do to finish basically?
That's as far as the solutions go.
Okay.
That's as far as you would need to go for us.
Mhm.
In fact, I don't think you would have one that would end like that.
Okay.
But mathematically, you could do inverse cosine of both sides,
Okay.
because inverse cosine of cosine just becomes
2y.
2y, yeah.
Okay.
And then you could divide both sides by 2. And you'd have to do inverse cosine of the other side also.
Gotcha.
But you don't need to know that for your AP exam, so.
Thank you.
Except whenever we went backwards, which you can't for some reason sometimes happens. Which is just the, it's the highest power.
often. and dyslexic. I just can't read. I did all my math right, but I just can't read it. I was doing it at 6 o'clock and I just kept using the wrong number.
You're on punishment.
A is this with a dot there. L is this with a dot there. N is this with a dot there. Second one there. This is the history. U is like this with two dots. V is like this with two dots. W you ignore for now. X is like this with two dots. Y is like this with two dots. Z is like this with three dots. W, for some reason, is this.
Factor X, this one,
Wow.
factor X out, so it's next.
W.
5 minus 6.
Yeah. The entirety of Braille falls into the exact pattern going A through J, it's K through Q, and then U through Z, except for W, which just breaks the pattern entirely. And you don't count, like if you don't forget to remove W, then you, all of these are occupied by the letters that do not exist. For some reason, they just decided not to follow it with W. And I found out why, and it's weirder than you'd think. Until they added this, Braille just didn't use the letter W. They just didn't use it. They had the entire alphabet where they just said, we don't need W. Yeah, if you can remember like this, 2 down, 2 across, and then sandwiches, you know the entirety of Braille. I don't know numbers in Braille though. Oh, the numbers numbers are the exact same as this pattern. It's the same thing, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And then 6 blankets of space. You really don't know how to do it. Like you think you'd be talking about how Braille is only like 10 letters and it repeats, but I've never heard of it before this. Which is really weird. Oh, that actually is interesting. Okay, so the reason why W wasn't in there originally was because Braille was invented in French. Apparently, the French doesn't use the letter W. Wait, what?
Okay, you guys still have about 35 minutes. If there's any of them I can help you with, just bring it up here.
Yep.
gave to you guys a few weeks ago, we did FRQ5, so you should practice that, check it, see how you did. And then give them time. Cool, thanks.
Is there a time for number one? Is there a time for number one?
Not yet. I'll collect it before the test, though.
Results in a lot of countries.
So where are you thinking?
All right, guys, you're down to about 3 minutes here. So remember, tomorrow is an A day, so I will not see you again until Tuesday. Your test is not Tuesday, your test will be Thursday. But if you're not feeling like you're pretty close to being ready for the test, then please do yourself a favor and start studying now, please. So I'll have a little more practice for you guys in the form of FRQs on Tuesday, and then some time to finish up your studying. Thursday we'll take the test, and then next Friday will be a B day, so we will do one of the last couple topics we need to see before we're in full AP review mode. But for now, we've got just a couple minutes, so you need to get your stuff put together, please.